May 17, 1943, port of Norfolk, Virginia. Oberleutnant Hans Weber stands in the cargo hold of the USS James Parker, hands zip tied behind his back, watching a sliver of American coastline grow wider through the rust-streaked porthole. The air below deck is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, salt water, and diesel fuel. Around him, 847 German prisoners of war shift in the semi-darkness, Afrika Korps veterans still wearing sand-bleached tunics, Luftwaffe pilots in torn flight jackets, submariners who'd been plucked from the North Atlantic 3 weeks ago, when their U-boat surfaced for the last time. Weber's stomach growls. It's been doing that for months now, a constant companion since the rations in Tunisia began to fail. The last proper meal he remembers was in Tunis, before Rommel pulled back watery soup, a heel of black bread that tasted like sawdust, and Assad's coffee made from roasted acorns. His uniform hangs loose on a frame that's lost 20 pounds since the North African campaign began its death spiral. Next to him, Unteroffizier Karl Richter stares at his boots. The leather is cracked, repaired with wire in 3 places. "Think they'll shoot us," he whispers in German. "They should have done it already if that was the plan." Weber replies, though he's not certain. Everything he knows about America comes from Der Stuuarmer newsreels and Goebbels' radio broadcasts, a nation of soft, mongrel capitalists who break under real pressure, who negotiate when they should fight, who are already war, weary and looking for a way out. But the guards he's seen so far don't look soft. They look well-fed, well-armed, and utterly indifferent to the cargo of enemy soldiers they're transporting into the American heartland. The ship's engines shudder to a stop. Commands echo through the hold in English, sharp, efficient. The prisoners are herded up narrow metal stairs toward daylight. Weber squints as he emerges onto the deck. The sun hits him like a physical blow after weeks in the dim hold. The air smells different here, cleaner than North Africa, less smoky than Europe, carrying hints of cut grass and something industrial he can't identify. Before him stretches a port facility unlike anything he's ever seen. Cranes swing cargo with mechanical precision. Warehouses line the waterfront, painted in fresh colors, their roofs intact. No bomb craters, no rubble, no burned-out vehicles rusting in the streets. The war feels impossibly distant, like a nightmare that hasn't reached this place and never will. The prisoners are marched down the gangplank in columns of 4. American military police watch from the dock. Thompson submachine guns held casually across their chests. Weber notices their uniforms first, perfectly tailored, unstained, buttons gleaming. Then he notices their faces, no hollowness in the cheeks, no desperation in the eyes. These men look like they've never missed a meal in their lives. A truck convoy waits on the dock. GMC 6 buys their olive paint jobs fresh and unmarked. The MPs begin loading prisoners into the canvas-covered beds with the efficiency of men moving livestock. Weber climbs aboard, finding a space on the wooden bench between a hollow-eyed Feldwebel and a naval officer who hasn't spoken since they left Gibraltar. "Where are we going?" someone asks in German. "Does it matter?" Another voice responds. "Probably a work camp, stone quarry, maybe a farm. I heard they send us to mines," Richter says. "Coal, 16 hours a day." Weber says nothing. He's trying to reconcile what he's seeing with what he was told to expect. The truck's engine starts, a smooth, powerful rumble that speaks of good maintenance and unlimited fuel. Through the gap in the canvas, he watches America slide past, brick buildings in good repair, automobiles on paved roads, civilians in clean clothes walking without the furtive, hunted look he's grown accustomed to seeing in Europe. The convoy rolls through Norfolk streets. A woman pushes a baby carriage past a storefront. A man in a suit exits a restaurant, picking his teeth. 2 children throw a ball in a small park, laughing. None of them look up at the passing trucks. None of them seem to care that the enemy is being driven through their city. After 30 minutes, the convoy turns onto a highway heading west. The landscape opens up. Green fields, neat farms, forests that haven't been stripped for fuel. Weber feels something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Not quite fear, not quite hope, but a kind of cognitive dissonance that makes his head ache. Richter leans close. "Hans," he whispers, "look at this place. There's no war here." And that's when Weber understands the first unsettling truth. America hasn't just been untouched by the war. America hasn't even noticed the war. The industrial might that's been hammering the rage from the air, that's been supplying Britain and Russia, that's building the invasion fleet everyone knows is coming. It's not straining this country. It's barely trying. The thought should terrify him. Instead, slumped in the truck with his wrists still bound, hunger still gnawing at his guts, Weber feels something he hasn't felt in months. He feels curious about what comes next. The truck convoy reaches Camp Aliceville, Alabama, 3 hours before sunset. Weber sees the perimeter fence first, a double row of chain, link topped with barbed wire, guard towers at 100-yard intervals, searchlights already angled toward the compound, even though it's still daylight. Standard security, nothing surprising. But beyond the fence, the buildings look wrong. They're new, not repurposed, not bombed and rebuilt, not patched together from salvage. Fresh lumber, straight lines, tar, paper roofing without holes. Rows of barracks stretch across cleared ground in geometric precision. Weber counts 16 buildings in the nearest compound alone. A water tower rises against the Alabama sky, painted white, no rust streaks. Next to it, a structure that looks like a mess hall, windows intact, smoke rising from kitchen chimneys. The trucks roll through the main gate. MPs wave them forward with the casual authority of men who do this every week. The convoy parks in a central assembly area where more prisoners are already milling about, some still in German uniforms, others wearing what appear to be work clothes with PW stenciled on the backs. "Ross, out!" Form up in lines of 10. The American guards shout in broken German, supplemented by hand gestures. Weber climbs down from the truck bed, his legs stiff from the journey. The Alabama heat wraps around him like a wet blanket, different from the desert heat he knew in Africa, heavier, thick with humidity. Around him, 847 men organize themselves into rough formations, military discipline still coded into their bodies despite capture, despite defeat, despite everything. A U.S. Army captain appears, flanked by 2 translators. One is a German, American corporal, whose accent places him somewhere near Frankfurt. The other is a former Wehrmacht officer who'd been captured at Kasserine Pass. A collaborator? Weber thinks with automatic contempt, though he keeps his face neutral. "Welcome to Camp Aliceville," the captain says in English, waiting for translation. "You are prisoners of war under the protection of the Geneva Convention. You will be treated fairly if you follow regulation. Escape attempts will be punished. Violence against guards or fellow prisoners will be punished. Work details are mandatory. Questions, silence. The prisoners stand in the Alabama sun, waiting. Processing begins now. When your name is called, proceed to Building 7 for medical examination, delosing, and uniform exchange. You'll be assigned bunks and issued identification cards. Evening meal is at 1800 hours. Evening meal. The words trigger something in Weber's stomach, that familiar clench of hope and dread. He's learned not to expect much from meals. The U.S. Navy fed them on the transport, ship-thin soup, hard biscuits, water. Better than Tunisia, worse than what he remembers from garrison duty in France before the war turned bad. The processing takes 2 hours. Weber shuffles through a series of stations in Building 7, each manned by bored American soldiers and medical personnel. A doctor examines his teeth, eyes, ears, makes notes on a form without comment. A nurse gives him a delosing powder that smells like chemicals and instructions he doesn't understand until the German-speaking corporal translates. Strip, shower, use the powder, put on the clean clothes on the bench. The shower is the first shock. Hot water, not lukewarm, not rationed, hot, powerful, unlimited. Weber stands under the spray for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes, watching months of North African dust, an Atlantic salt spiral down the drain. Around him, other prisoners do the same. No one speaks. Some are crying quietly, faces turned up into the steam. The clean clothes are American work uniforms, dyed dark blue with PW painted in white on the back and pant legs. They fit poorly. Too big on Weber's diminished frame, but they're clean, unpatched, and they don't smell like death. By the time he's processed, assigned to Barracks 4, Bunk 23, and issued a metal identification tag, the sun is setting. A whistle blows across the compound. The prisoners look up like dogs hearing a dinner bell. Mess call. Someone translates. Everyone to the dining hall. Weber follows the crowd toward the largest building, Richter appearing beside him in an oversized blue uniform that makes him look like a child playing dress. Up, they push through double doors into a room that stops Weber in his tracks. Long tables with benches. Electric lights overhead, bright, unwavering, no brownouts. Steam rising from a serving line where American prisoners of war, no, American soldiers, stand behind metal trays filled with food. Real food. The smell hits Weber like a drug meat cooking. Bread baking coffee. Real coffee, not ersatz. Jesus Christ, Richter whispers beside him. Hans, are you seeing this? Weber is seeing it. He's just not believing it. Each prisoner is handed a metal tray and moves down the line. An American cook, a black soldier with corporal stripes, plops a piece of meat onto Weber's tray. It's the size of his fist. Then potatoes. Not watery soup with potato peels floating in it, but actual mashed potatoes, steaming with butter melting on top. Green beans, a thick slice of white bread, an orange, a cup filled with something dark that the prisoners ahead are calling Coca-Cola. Weber reaches the end of the line and stares at his tray. This is more food than he's seen on a single plate in 2 years. Around him, German POWs are sitting down at the tables, staring at their meals with identical expressions of disbelief. Some are already eating, mechanically at first, then faster, then desperately, as if the food might disappear if they don't consume it immediately. Richter sits across from Weber, fork hovering over his tray. This is a trick, he says quietly. This is for today only, to process us. Tomorrow it goes back to normal. But Weber is remembering the trucks, the buildings, the guards' faces, the casual abundance of everything he's seen since landing. He cuts into the meat, pork, he thinks, and takes a bite. It tastes like the death of everything he was told about America. Weber wakes on his 4th morning at Camp Aliceville, expecting the rations to finally drop. They don't. Breakfast is powdered eggs, bacon, toast with jam, coffee. Real coffee that tastes like actual beans instead of roasted grain. The German prisoners move through the mess line with less shock now, but the disbelief hasn't faded. It's just transformed into something else, a kind of numb acceptance that coexists uneasily with everything they thought they knew about the war. After breakfast, work details. Weber is assigned to a forestry crew, 30 men loaded onto trucks and driven 8 miles to a pine forest where they'll clear timber under the supervision of 2 American guards who spend most of their time smoking cigarettes and reading newspapers. The work is hard but not brutal. They're given water breaks every hour. At midday, the guards distribute lunch, sandwiches wrapped in waxed paper, apples, and canteens of cold lemonade. Richter sits on a fallen log beside Weber, staring at his sandwich. White bread, he says quietly. Karl, my brother-in-law, he's a baker in Dortmund. He wrote to my sister last year that the Reich confiscated all the white flour. Everything's black bread now, and half of it is sawdust filler. He takes a bite, chews slowly. This is better bread than I ate before the war. Around them, other prisoners are having similar realization. An Unteroffizier from Hamburg examines his apple like an artifact from a museum. A former shopkeeper from Berlin holds the waxed paper up to the light, marveling at its quality. We haven't had wax paper in Germany since 41, he mutters. We use newspaper. When we have anything to wrap, the afternoon passes in the rhythm of axe and saw. Weber falls into the work, letting his body move while his mind churns. The arithmetic doesn't work. Germany is fighting a total war. Every resource dedicated to the struggle. Every civilian sacrifice justified by necessity. Every shortage explained as temporary deprivation before final victory. But if America can feed its prisoners this well, can build camps this quickly, can spare oranges and white bread and real coffee for enemy soldiers, what does that say about the balance of power? What does that say about the lies The trucks return them to camp at 5 o'clock. The prisoners are given an hour before dinner, free time to wash, rest, write letters. Weber heads to Barracks 4, intending to sleep, but finds a crowd gathered near the bulletin board outside the administration building. What's happening? He asks a Luftwaffe mechanic. Canteen opens today. The man says, they're posting the rules. Weber pushes closer. The notice is printed in German and English. Camp canteen opening June 1st, 1943. Prisoners may purchase items using camp scrip earned through work details. Prices are as follows. A 6-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola costs 10 cents. A pack of 20 cigarettes costs 15 cents. A single serving of ice cream, 10 cents. A chocolate bar, 10 cents. Writing paper and envelopes, 5 cents. A pack of 5 razor blades, 15 cents. A bar of soap, 10 cents. Maximum weekly purchase is $3 in scrip. Canteen hours are 1700 to 1900 daily, except Sunday. The crowd reads in silence. Then someone laughs, a short, sharp bark that sounds more like pain than humor. Ice cream, Richter says beside Weber. They're selling us ice cream. It's propaganda. Someone else mutters. They'll stock it once, take photographs, then it disappears. But at 5 o'clock, the canteen opens, a converted barracks near the center of camp. It has a counter, shelves, and a refrigeration unit that hums with electrical power. Behind the counter, an American PFC and a German prisoner assigned as clerk. On the shelves, everything the notice promised. The line forms immediately. Over 100 men waiting with the scrip. They've earned from 3 days of work details. Weber joins the queue, curious despite himself. The sun is setting, and the Alabama heat is finally breaking. Somewhere in the distance, he hears a radio playing American music, big band jazz, that would be illegal in Germany. Decadent music, music that's supposed to represent a civilization in decline. It doesn't sound like decline. It sounds like a country that has energy to spare for entertainment. The line moves slowly. Weber watches the transactions ahead of him. A Feldwebel buys cigarettes, Lucky Strikes in a green package, and immediately lights one, closing his eyes as he inhales American tobacco. 2 young soldiers buy Coca-Cola, twisting the caps off with their shirts, the carbonation hissing. An older Oberleutnant asks for ice cream in hesitant English. The American PFC scoops it into a small paper cup. Vanilla, 2 generous portions. Enjoy, Fritz, he says without malice. The Oberleutnant takes the cup and stares at it. His hands are shaking. When Weber reaches the counter, he has 40 cents in scrip. He points at the Coca-Cola, not trusting his English. The PFC hands him a cold bottle, moisture beading on the glass. Weber has seen Coca-Cola in advertisements, in photographs from before the war, when Germany still imported American goods. He's never tasted it. Outside the canteen, he finds Richter sitting on the steps with his own bottle. They open them simultaneously, the caps clinking onto the wooden planks. Weber takes a drink. It's sweet, overwhelmingly sweet. The carbonation burns his throat in a way that's shocking after years of flat water and bitter ersatz coffee. It tastes like sugar and caramel, and something else he can't identify, something chemical and completely foreign and utterly American. My children haven't had sweets in 2 years, Richter says quietly. He's not drinking his Coca-Cola. He's just holding it, watching the condensation run down the bottle. My daughter, she's 7. She asked my wife what chocolate tastes like. Magda had to describe it from memory. Weber says nothing. What is there to say? Around them, German prisoners sit in the fading light, drinking Coca-Cola and smoking American cigarettes and eating ice cream that's already melting in the heat. Some are laughing, some are silent, a few are crying quietly, faces turned away from their comrades. In the barracks that night, Weber lies on his bunk and listens to the whispered conversations around him. It's better than garrison duty in France, better than home. My brother wrote that they're eating turnips for every meal, turnips and potato peels. This can't last. This is special treatment. Once they process everyone, once the camps are full, it'll change. But Weber is starting to understand something that terrifies him more than mistreatment ever could. This isn't special. This isn't propaganda. This is just America showing German soldiers what ordinary American abundance looks like. And if America can afford to feed its enemies this well while fighting a war on two fronts, Germany has already lost. Not in battle, not in some future invasion. Germany lost the moment it declared war on a nation that considers ice cream and Coca-Cola basic amenities for prisoners. Weber closes his eyes, but sleep doesn't come. He's thinking about the letter he needs to write to his wife in Munich. He's thinking about how to describe this place without sounding insane. He's thinking about whether she'll believe him. He's thinking she won't. June 12, 1943, the Recreation Hall. Weber sits at a long wooden table with a piece of American writing paper in front of him. White, unlined, better quality than anything he's seen in the Reich since 1940. The pencil in his hand is a Dixon Ticonderoga, yellow paint unchipped, the eraser pink and unused. He bought both at the canteen for 5 cents. Around him, 40 other prisoners hunch over their own letters. The recreation hall is quiet, except for the scratch of pencil on paper, and the occasional rustle as someone crumples a false start. Writing home is permitted once per week. 1 letter, 1 page, subject to censorship by American intelligence officers who read German fluently and stamp approval on anything that doesn't discuss military matters or camp locations. Weber has been staring at the blank page for 20 minutes. Dear Greta, that much is easy. The rest is impossible. How does he describe this place to his wife in Munich without sounding like he's gone mad? How does he explain that he's eating better in an enemy prison camp than she is in the heart of the Reich? How does he tell her that everything Goebbels says about America, about their weakness, their decadence, their inability to sustain a war effort, is a lie so massive it staggers the mind? He puts pencil to paper. Dear Greta, I am well and unharmed. The Americans treat us according to the Geneva Convention. The food is adequate, and we have medical care. Do not worry about me. How are you and the children? Is Peter still having trouble with his studies? Has Else grown much? I think of you all constantly, and pray this war ends soon, so I can hold you again. Your loving husband, Hans. He reads it over. Safe, bland, approved by any censor, completely dishonest. Beside him, Richter is writing furiously, filling his page with cramped handwriting. Weber glances over, a breach of etiquette, but Richter doesn't notice. And Magda, I know you won't believe this, but yesterday we had roast beef, potatoes with real butter, fresh carrots, white bread, and for dessert they gave us something called apple pie with ice cream. Ice cream, Magda! In a prison camp! I am eating better here than I ate at our wedding dinner, better than Christmas before the war. They have a canteen where we can buy Coca-Cola and American cigarettes with money we earn from work details. The cigarettes are Lucky Strikes. I remember seeing advertisements for them in Berlin in '38. They taste like luxury used to taste. They won't believe you, Weber says quietly. Richter looks up. His eyes are red-rimmed. I know, but I have to tell her. I have to tell someone the truth about this place. Across the table, Oberfeldwebel-Kraus, a 38-year-old veteran of Poland, France, and North Africa, is writing with angry, stabbing motions. He's one of the hard-liners, still convinced of final victory, still believing the setbacks are temporary. His letter is visible from where Weber sits. Do not believe the enemy propaganda. They feed us well now to break our spirits, to make us forget our duty. It is a psychological trick. Germany will triumph. The Führer has secret weapons that will turn the tide. These Americans are soft, cowardly. When the real fighting comes, they will collapse. Weber wonders who Kraus is trying to convince, his wife or himself. The letters are collected at 8 o'clock by an American corporal who'll pass them to the intelligence section. The approved ones will be forwarded to the International Red Cross in Geneva, then sent through neutral countries into Germany. The process takes 6 to 8 weeks. Responses, if they come, take just as long. Weber sends his safe, sanitized letter and hates himself for the cowardice. July 29, 1943, mail call. The first responses arrive. A crowd gathers outside the administration building as names are called. Weber hears his name, Oberleutnant Hans Weber, and his heart lurches. He pushes forward, accepting the envelope from the American sergeant. It's thin, 1 page, maybe 2. The handwriting is Greta's, but shaky. as if written in poor light or with rationed paper that makes the pen skip. He walks back to the barracks before opening it. Richter is already on his bunk, reading his own letter, lips moving silently. Weber sits and carefully unseals the envelope. My dearest Hans, your letter arrived yesterday, and I wept with relief to know you are alive and safe. We had heard nothing for so long. I feared the worst. We are managing. The rations are smaller now. Bread is mostly potato flour and sawdust, but we are eating. Peter trades cigarette coupons for extra food sometimes. Don't be angry. Many children do this. Else asks about you every night. I tell her you will come home soon, though I do not know if this is true. The bombing is worse. Last week the British hit the factory district. The Hoffman's building was destroyed. Frau Hoffmann and the baby survived, but Herr Hoffmann was killed in the rubble. The funerals are constant now. Coffee is impossible to find. We drink roasted barley. Meat is a memory. Yesterday the ration office gave us turnips again. Turnips for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Else cries because she is hungry. I give her my portion, but it is never enough. Hans, you wrote that the food is adequate. What does this mean? Are they starving you? Tell me the truth. I need to know. We pray for your return. Stay strong. All my love. Greta. Weber reads it 3 times. The words are calm, controlled. Greta has always been strong, but he can read between the lines. His family is hungry. His city is being bombed to rubble. His daughter cries from starvation while he gains weight in Alabama, eating roast beef and apple pie. My wife doesn't believe me. Richter says from his bunk. His voice is flat. I told her about the food. She wrote back that I must be confused from trauma. She thinks the Americans drugged me. She says Goebbels announced that American prison camps are death factories where they work prisoners to starvation. He laughs, a sound like breaking glass. Death factories. Hans, I've gained 12 pounds. That night, Weber writes another letter. This time, he tells the truth. Dear Greta, I lied in my last letter. The food is not adequate. It is abundant beyond belief. We receive the same rations as American soldiers, nearly 4,000 calories per day. Yesterday I had scrambled eggs, bacon, toast with jam, and real coffee for breakfast. For lunch, ham sandwiches on white bread. For dinner, pork chops, mashed potatoes with butter, green beans, pie for dessert. There is a canteen where we buy Coca-Cola, ice cream, chocolate, and American cigarettes. I have gained weight. My uniform, the American work clothes they gave us, is starting to fit properly. I know you will not believe this. I would not believe it if someone told me. But Greta, I swear on our children's lives, I am eating better in this prison camp than I have eaten since before the war. Better than home. Better than Germany. The Americans are not struggling. They are not weakened. Their factories run day and night. Their cities are intact. Their people are well fed. The guards throw away food that would feed a German family for a week. I do not know how to say this gently. We have lost. Not because our soldiers are not brave, not because our cause is unjust, but because we are fighting a country so wealthy, so powerful, that they can afford to feed their enemies ice cream and Coca-Cola while fighting wars on 2 continents. Keep the children safe. Survive. I will come home when this is over. I love you. Hans, he seals it, knowing the censor might reject it, knowing that if it reaches Greta, she still might not believe him, knowing that the truth sounds more like propaganda than the propaganda does. At mail call the next week, the American sergeant hands him back his letter, unstamped. Too much detail about camp conditions. The sergeant says in German, rewrite it, keep it personal. Weber takes the rejected letter back to the barracks. He doesn't rewrite it. Instead, he lies on his bunk and stares at the ceiling while the Alabama heat presses down, and the other prisoners whisper about the rumors. Allied landings in Sicily, Mussolini arrested, the Red Army advancing. The war is turning. Everyone can feel it now, even the hardliners like Cross. But it's not the battles that convince Weber the end is coming. It's the ice cream. It's the casual, careless abundance of a nation that hasn't even begun to strain under the weight of total war. It's the realization that Germany is a starving man fighting a giant who doesn't know his own strength. September 1943, the canteen line. Weber stands behind a newly arrived prisoner, a U-boat commander named Lehman. captured when his submarine was depth charged off the coast of Greenland 3 weeks ago. Lehman still has the hollow-eyed look of a man who expects punishment, who braces for the blow that hasn't fallen yet. Is it true? Lehman asks quietly in German, staring at the refrigerated case full of Coca-Cola bottles. The others told me, but I thought they were joking. It's true? Weber says. Every day the canteen is open, and the meals are even better. Lehman buys a Coca-Cola with shaking hands. Outside, he opens it and takes a single sip, then stops, staring at the bottle like it might vanish. My crew, he says slowly. We were on quarter rations for the last 2 months, sharing tins of sardines between 3 men, drinking condensed water that tasted like metal. He takes another sip. My family in Kiel. My wife's last letter said they're burning furniture for heat because there's no coal allocation for residential buildings. Weber knows this story. He's heard it in 100 variations from 100 different prisoners. The scripts differ, but the theme is always the same, the slow, dawning horror of realizing that captivity is better than freedom, that the enemy's abundance makes the fatherland's sacrifice look like a suicide pact. By autumn, Camp Aliceville holds over 6,000 German POWs. Other camps are opening across America, Texas, Kansas, Colorado, Montana. The prisoners write letters, and slowly, very slowly, some of the truthful ones make it through censorship. Not the ones that discuss military matters or give away locations, but the ones that simply, honestly describe daily life. And in Germany, families read these letters and refused to believe them. November 1943. Barracks 4. Richter receives a second letter from his wife. This one is different, longer, more desperate. Karl, I showed your letters to my mother. She says you have been brainwashed by American propaganda. She says they are feeding you lies along with the food. But Karl, I need to know, are you truly eating white bread? Real meat? Is there really ice cream? I ask because I cannot imagine it anymore. I cannot remember what sugar tastes like. Else has never had chocolate. She is 8 years old and has never tasted chocolate. When you describe these things, it is like you are writing from another planet. The ration was cut again. 250 grams of bread per day now. The flour is more sawdust than wheat. We are so hungry, Karl. All the time, we are hungry. If what you write is true, if America has so much food they give it to prisoners, then why are we fighting them? How can we possibly win? Please tell me the truth. I need to understand. Magda Richter reads the letter aloud to a small group gathered in the barracks after lights out. Men sit on footlockers and bunks, smoking American cigarettes in the darkness, listening to a woman's voice from across the Atlantic asking the question they've all been asking themselves. How can we possibly win? We can't, says Fischer, a former panzer commander. We couldn't from the start. Look at this place. This is one camp in one state. They've built hundreds of these. They did it in months, while fighting in Italy, while bombing Germany, while supplying Russia. He takes a drag on his lucky strike. We're fighting a country that treats war production like a hobby. Final victory. Kraus starts, but someone cuts him off. There is no final victory. Kraus, wake up. The secret weapons aren't coming. The miracle isn't happening. We lost this war the day we started it. The room goes quiet. 6 months ago, those words would have started a fight. Now, no one argues. Even Kraus just sits in the darkness, smoking, saying nothing. February 1944. The Recreation Hall. A new policy: prisoners can send photographs home. An American photographer comes to camp with a Kodak camera and a portable backdrop. For 50 cents in script, a prisoner can have his photo taken and mailed to his family. The line stretches across the compound. Weber waits his turn, watching the men ahead pose for their portraits. They've been instructed to look neutral, no smiling, no propaganda value. But the camera doesn't lie about their physical condition. These are not starving men. These are not broken, exhausted slaves. They're well-fed, clean-shaven, wearing intact clothing. When Weber's turn comes, he sits on the stool and faces the lens. The flash pops. The photographer makes a note of his name and German address. Your wife will receive this in about 2 months. The photographer says in English. The translator repeats it in German. 2 months. Weber imagines Greta opening the envelope in Munich, pulling out the photograph, seeing her husband's face, fuller than when he left, healthier than he's been in years. Will she recognize what she's seeing? Will she understand what it means? April 1944. The letters from Germany begin to change. Hans, your photograph arrived. I stared at it for an hour. You look, I do not know the word. You look fed. You look rested. You look like you did before the war. I showed it to Frau Bauer next door. She has not heard from her husband. He is somewhere on the Eastern Front. She looked at your photograph and started crying. Not from happiness, from something else. Hans, I am beginning to believe what you wrote. I do not want to believe it. It means everything we have suffered. The bombing, the hunger, the fear. It means all of it was for nothing. It means we are losing to a country that does not even notice they are fighting us. The children ask why you look so healthy when we are so thin. I did not know how to answer them. I am glad you are alive. I am glad you are safe. But Hans, I am also angry. Is that wrong, to be angry that you eat while we starve? I do not know what I feel anymore. Greta Weber reads the letter twice, then carefully folds it and puts it in his footlocker with the others. He understands his wife's anger. He would feel the same in her position. The guilt is a constant weight. The knowledge that every meal he eats is a meal his children don't have, that his safety is purchased with their suffering. But there's another feeling beneath the guilt, one he barely admits to himself: relief. Relief that he's here instead of in Stalingrad or Normandy or wherever the Wehrmacht is currently being ground to dust. Relief that he'll probably survive this war. Relief that he saw the truth about America's power before it was too late to surrender. That last thought, before it was too late to surrender, feels like treason. It probably is treason. He doesn't care anymore. June 6, 1944. News of the Normandy invasion spreads through the camp within hours. The guards don't try to hide it. Why would they? The American newspapers are full of it. Triumphant headlines about the liberation of Europe. The prisoners gather around posted notices, reading the official announcements in translation. Allied forces have landed in France. The second front has opened. The noose is tightening. Kraus sits on his bunk, head in his hands. It's over, he says quietly. God help us. It's over. No one disagrees. That night, the canteen does its biggest business in months. Prisoners spend their scrip on Coca-Cola and cigarettes and ice cream, consuming American abundance like it might save them from what's coming, or maybe like it might help them forget what they've lost. Weber buys a chocolate bar, a Hershey's, the wrapper brown and silver. He takes it back to the barracks and breaks it into pieces, eating it slowly, letting each square melt on his tongue. It tastes like the future, like the world that's coming after Germany loses, like the peace that will be dictated by nations with so much power they can afford to be generous to their enemies. He thinks about his children, growing up in occupied Germany, learning English in school, drinking Coca-Cola, eating chocolate. The thought should horrify him. It doesn't. It just makes him tired. May 8, 1945. The war in Europe ends. The announcement comes over the camp's public address system, first in English, then in German. Unconditional surrender. Hitler dead. Berlin fallen. The Reich dissolved. The prisoners receive the news in silence. Some cry. Some pray. Most just sit quietly, processing the end of everything they knew. Weber stands in the compound, watching the American flag snap in the Alabama breeze. Around him, 6,000 German prisoners of war face an uncertain future. Repatriation will take months, maybe years. Germany is destroyed, occupied, starving. Going home means returning to rubble and hunger and occupation. Going home means leaving the country that feeds its enemies ice cream and Coca-Cola. Richter finds him near the fence. My wife's last letter, he says quietly. She wrote that when the Americans arrived in our district, they brought food, chocolate for the children, medicine. They set up field kitchens and fed everyone. Didn't matter if you were Nazi party or resistance or just trying to survive. They just fed people. He shakes his head. She said it was exactly like you described, the abundance, the casual power. She said she finally understood why we lost. Weber nods. He's thought about this moment for 2 years, the moment when Germany would finally see what he saw on his first day at Camp Aliceville, the moment when the truth became undeniable. They didn't beat us with tanks or bombs, Weber says. They beat us with ice cream. They beat us the moment we went to war with a country so rich, so powerful, that feeding their enemies barely registers as an expense. What do we do now? Richter asked. Weber doesn't have an answer. None of them do. They're soldiers of a dead empire, waiting in a comfortable prison camp to return to a destroyed homeland, having learned the hardest lesson of the 20th century. Never fight a war against a nation that can afford to be generous to its prisoners. The canteen opens at 5 o'clock. The line forms as it always does. German POWs buying Coca-Cola and cigarettes with American script, living better in captivity than they ever did in the Reich, waiting to go home to a country that will take a generation to rebuild. Weber joins the line. He buys a Coca-Cola, opens it, and drinks. The sweet, carbonated taste is familiar now, no longer shocking, just normal. That's perhaps the most unsettling thing of all, how quickly abundance becomes ordinary, how easily comfort erodes conviction. He finishes the bottle and sets it down on a bench. Somewhere in Germany, his family is being fed by American field kitchens. Somewhere in America, factories are already retooling from war production to peacetime manufacturing. Somewhere in the future, Germany will rise again, but it will rise in America's image, remade by the same casual power that put ice cream in prison camps. The war is over. Germany lost, and the proof was never in the battles. It was always in the Coca-Cola. So the next time someone tells you World War II was won with tanks and bombs, remind them it was won with ice cream. But that's not the strangest part of this story. The strangest part, some of these prisoners didn't want to go home. When repatriation began, hundreds of German POWs requested to stay in America. Some married local women. Some disappeared into American cities. Some were never seen in Germany again. Why? What did they know about what was waiting for them? That's next time on WW2 Forgotten 45. Subscribe if you want the stories they forgot to tell you. Comment which untold World War II story you want us to investigate next. Because history isn't just about the battles, it's about the Coca-Cola.